Okay, cool. So this is in response to this video that's on YouTube. It's going around Facebook right now about how many people did it take in order for you to exist today. I'll play a little bit of his explanation.
But your existence didn't only rely on your parents, but your parents' parents, and your grandparents' parents, and your great-grandparents' parents, and so on and so forth. So, then how many people did it take for you to exist? Well, before I start, here's a little bit of back information. In 100 years, there are about 4 to 5 generations that fit within it. It is possible to have 3 and even 6. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to use an easy number at 5. So we'll have 5 generations represent roughly 100 years. 5 generations contains 62 people who are necessary for you to exist. But that sounds like a weird number, so let me show you guys the math that I used in order to get these numbers that I'll be showing you. And yes, I did all the calculations for this video by my lonesome, and it was absolutely dreadful, and you'll understand why very soon. So here you are, but you don't count because you didn't contribute to your own existence. But some people who did were your parents. They count as 2. Your grandparents, being that you have 4 of them, add that to your parents, makes 6. Your great-grandparents, being that you already have 8 of them, add that to the 6, and you get 14. You then have 16 great-great-grandparents, add that to 14, you get 30. And lastly, you have 32 great-great-great-grandparents, add that to 30, and you get 62.
Okay, so he did these calculations by hand, and he ended up giving up at 1,000 years. I found a formula that you can use to get the answer, and so the formula is the sum of 2 to the power of n with n equals 1 to whatever number of generations you want to calculate. And so we'll just show that it works. So we'll start off with n equals 1 to 1. That'll give you the first generation, which is your parents. So it should give us a 2, and it does right there. It's 2. 2 generations should give us 6, and there it is, 6. 3 generations, so 6 plus their parents equals 14. 4 generations gives us 30, and 5 generations gives us 62. And so 5 generations, according to him, represents 100 years. So if we were to go 500 years, that'd be 25 generations. So 25 generations, 500 years would give us 67,108,862 people that it took to make you exist. So let's go 1,000 years, and that would be 50 generations. And that gives us a really big number. What is that? Million, billion, thousand, million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, 2 quadrillion, 251 trillion, 799 billion, 813 million, 685,246. So that's a really huge number. So that's 50 generations. That's 1,000 years. And this is where he gave up doing the calculations by hand. But with this formula, we can go beyond that. So if we were to go 100 generations, that would be 2,000 years. And there's the number for that. So that's a really huge number in 2,000 years. And it made me wonder, has that many people ever existed on the earth? So I Googled that, and I got a number. A couple of different websites gave about the same number, and this is based on mid-2011, and the number is 107,602,000,000 people who have ever been born. So that's way less than the number that we're getting in the formula here. So the only explanation is that somewhere in there a lot of people were related to each other, because this huge number would be the number of people if none of them were related in any way within the family tree. And so the number here, the 107 billion, that's based on humans only going back 50,000 years. So right now we're at 100 generations, which is 2,000 years. So let's go back 10,000 years, would be 500 generations. And that's a really huge number. And if we went back 50,000 years, that would be 2,500 generations. And now the number is just unbelievably huge. And so that's only going back 50,000 years based on humans. But imagine if you were to go back beyond humans, pre-humans, to all of our ancestors back there, and going all the way back to like our microbial ancestors, who I would imagine their mating cycle would have been way shorter than 20 years. So if you went back like 3 billion years, and that would be hundreds of millions of generations, the number would be all the way down the page. The only explanation for this is that all across the family tree, we're all related in one way or another.